Chapter 614 You Dare. She did not expect to see both of them here at this moment. After all, they had already disappeared for a good 3 years. However, she was still very worried that they would reappear. If the powerful soul masters from the Tang Sect and Shrek Academy were to die in battle before her, Huo Yuhao and Tang Clan would never forgive her. Juzi was torn between the options before her. She was usually very decisive when it came to making such decisions. However, she had suddenly become very hesitant. Marshal, please give us your orders. A commander who was by her side begged her. Juzi sighed before whispering some instructions to the commander by her side. Right now, both sides were now engaged in a battle. Because the battle had only just begun, the soul masters and soul engineers on both sides were in their best possible state. They could still go all out on each other. It was only when they had expended a good amount of their energy that the casualties would start to pile up. At the end of the day, the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion was still the most powerful group on the battlefield. Several people would fall from the sky with every attack they launched. However, under the command of Deming, they would always retreat after launching an attack to extend the distance between their foes and themselves. Deming's body was constantly radiating a powerful silver light as he kept Elderson away from the Soul Engineer Legion. At this moment, the Soul Masters from Shrek Academy were able to showcase their individual brilliance. The elders from the Sea Gods Pavilion, as well as the powerful Soul Masters from Shrek Academy and the Tang Sect, rushed towards the Sun Moon Empire's Soul Engineers. The entire battlefield was illuminated by the different colored lights which were being radiated and released by their soul skills. Suddenly, a mysterious light surged from the back of the Sun Moon Empire. This beam of light was very unexpected as it appeared without any warning. It swept across the battlefield in an indiscriminating way as every Soul Master and Soul Engineer on the battlefield was illuminated by it. In addition, the main target of the beam of light was the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion. The people going up against the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion were the most powerful Soul Masters from the Dalu Empire. Hence, they were instantly enveloped by the beam of light. An intense sense of weakness instantly spread throughout their bodies. Even though their soul power was not affected by it, the circulation of their blood within their bodies became very slow and weak. The movement of these Soul Masters seemed to have become very sluggish. Their intense attacks became a lot weaker under these circumstances. At this instant, Ma Xiaotao was unleashing her Phoenix Meteor Shower. After being hit by the beam, her body started to sway left and right as the sense of enfeeblement weakened her battle intent. Because of this, her Phoenix Meteor Shower was terminated. Meanwhile, the Sun Moon Empire's Soul Engineers' bodies released a thin membrane which protected their bodies from the beam, and they managed to emerge unscathed from it. Enfeeblement rays? Enfeeblement rays at this scale? This must be a Class 9 soul tool. In fact, it's definitely more powerful than the average Class 9 soul tool. Everyone had trump cards, and the Sun Moon Empire was no exception. There was no reason for them to be less well equipped than the Dalu Empire. However, they did not possess things like interference shells, which could directly influence the outcome of the battle. This enfeeblement ray was, in fact, a Class 9 soul tool. The only reason why it was able to cover such a huge range was because it was a single-use soul tool. It was very similar to a stationary soul cannon shell, but it possessed certain key differences. It was a lot more controllable even though it was not as powerful as a stationary soul cannon shell. In addition, it unleashed more than just one enfeeblement soul ray. Streaks of enfeeblement rays swept across the sky as more than half of the 4,000 Dalu soul masters were hit by them. Under such circumstances, their fighting power plunged tremendously. This was not the end of it, following which, a different colored ray shone on the Sun Moon Empire's soul engineers. At that instant, the soul engineers became a lot more powerful. Not only was their soul power enhanced, but their entire aura was also changed by the light. It was a ray which helped to buff up one's troops. The soul engineers' soul power was enhanced by 10%, and their spiritual concentration was also improved. On top of that, the ray also had a bloodburst effect. This was also a single-use Class 9 soul tool. These two Class 9 soul rays were able to change the situation on the battlefield by weakening their opponents and enhancing their soul engineers. After they were released, it was clear that the Sun Moon Empire was gaining the upper hand. The exact same situation was being replicated on the ground. It was obvious now that the Sun Moon Empire had come prepared. They started to trade attacks and blows with the soul engineer legions within Shrek City now that they had finished installing their soul tools. Even though they were still at a slight disadvantage, their situation had improved tremendously. On top of that, they were installing several other soul tool deployment areas. If the battle were to continue to drag on, the Sun Moon Empire would definitely seize the upper hand. It was now clear that the Dalu Empire had lost the aerial battle. In the meantime, the tables were now slowly being turned by the Sun Moon Empire as they started to seize the upper hand on the ground as well. The White Tiger Duke saw all of this from the city walls of the Dalu city. He closed his eyes as a grimace formed on his face. Surprise attacks no longer had any effect if your opponent had an absolute edge over you. He let out a long sigh as he thought to himself how fate had tricked him once again. If we had figured out the stationary interference shells earlier, the outcome would have been a lot different. Even if we were only able to produce them after Douluo Empire had been wiped out, it would still not be too late. Back then, the Dalu Empire was still at its most powerful state. Right now, the Dalu Empire was no longer the same as before. They no longer had enough power to defend themselves against the powerful Sun Moon Empire. Without reinforcements and support from Shrek Academy, they would never have been able to hold on to their remaining land. It's too late. It's probably over. We're done. At this instant, someone placed his hand on the White Tiger Duke's shoulder. The White Tiger Duke opened his eyes and turned around to face Shu Jiawei, the Emperor of the Dalu Empire. For some strange reason, Shu Jiawei was actually smiling right now. Your Majesty, I'm sorry. I didn't manage to protect our last chance of defending the Dalu Empire. Tears started to well up in the White Tiger Duke's eyes. Shu Jiawei shook his head and sighed. I knew this day would come eventually. I am already grateful to you for giving me hope, even if it was for only a day. From the look of things, there is no way the Sun Moon Empire would let either of us go. Let's get our troops to retreat. Regardless of the outcome, we should not let the blood of the talents from Shrek Academy and the Tang Sect flow because of this battle. After all, they are the future hope of our continent. Do you still remember what I said yesterday? The White Tiger Duke nodded silently. He knew that Shu Jiawei was right. The most important thing they should be doing now was to preserve whatever fighting power they had. From the beginning of the war until now, the Sun Moon Empire had never attacked Shrek City. In addition, they had never launched an all-out attack on anyone from Shrek Academy. As long as the Tang Sect and Shrek Academy were still around, the three original empires of the Douluo continent would still have hope. The White Tiger Duke gritted his teeth and shouted, "Retreat!" The signal to retreat was immediately released above Dalu city. As the signal lit up the sky above the city, the hearts of the soldiers and soul masters who were fighting at the front line sank. Everyone knew what retreating meant. It seemed like this war was really about to end. This meant that the continent was finally going to be united by a single empire. Elderson sighed as he transformed back into his human form. He glared at Deming, who was not too far away from him, as he spoke. We did not manage to decide who is the stronger one between us. If not for the academy, I would really want to know what other powers a Class 10 soul engineer possesses. We'll have plenty of time for that in the future. Deming replied plainly. You can tell your people to stop fighting now. Elderson nodded. Very soon, the fights and battles that were going on the battlefield stopped. The Sun Moon Empire also stopped attacking the soul engineers from Shrek Academy, the Tang Sect, and the other empires. Now that the war had progressed to this stage, it was no longer possible for the Dalu Empire to turn the tables. It was all over. The only thing everyone could do was wait for the consequences to hit them. Elderson naturally stopped fighting because he also wanted to preserve the power of the academy. There was no longer any meaning in continuing the battle. At the end of the day, Shrek Academy was still a very powerful entity. There was no reason for the Sun Moon Empire to challenge the academy. Even if they were to conquer the entire continent, it was not possible for them to overlook the power of the academy. At the end of the day, even if Huo Yuhao and Tang Clan were missing, they had to account for the powerful soul masters which had once graduated from Shrek. In fact, there were many powerful soul masters who had once studied at the prestigious Shrek Academy in the land that had been conquered by the Sun Moon Empire. After all, Shrek Academy was a place which was revered by all soul masters. It would be political suicide for the Sun Moon Empire to attack the academy and slay their members. On top of that, there was no longer a need for the Sun Moon Empire to do so. In fact, they already had the entire continent under their control. No matter how powerful Shrek City was, they would never be able to influence the outcome. It would be wise for them to keep Shrek City around so as to appease the powerful soul masters who had graduated from the academy. After all, they would only trigger a violent response from what was left of the three empires by destroying their last remaining hope. Hence, Deming also instructed the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion to cease fire after Elderson commanded his people to stand down. They allowed the soul masters from Shrek Academy, the Tang Sect, and the Dalu Empire to retreat safely. Juzi flew to the front line under the protection of her personal guards and stopped next to Deming. There was a mixture of anticipation and relief in her facial expression. She had been waiting for this moment for far too long. She not only wanted to conquer the entire continent, but she also wanted to exact the revenge she had been looking forward to for a long time. Juzi took in a deep breath before turning around to look at the Dalu Empire. Pass my orders. I want Dalu City to hand us the White Tiger Duke. Get the Dalu Empire to surrender to us. Kong Deming looked at Juzi as he revealed a faint smile before nodding. The commanders, especially the Legion commanders from the different Soul Engineer legions, had originally wanted to question Juzi's orders. After all, the Soul Engineer legions had lost many Soul Engineers in yesterday's battle. However, after seeing how Kong had nodded in agreement with her proposal, no one dared to raise any objections. Because the War God Empress had the support of Kong, no one dared to challenge Juzi's decision. It was also precisely because of Kong Deming that Juzi was able to rule the entire Sun Moon Empire comfortably. Spread the War God Empress orders. The Great Sun Moon Empire has decided to show mercy on the innocent lives within the Dalu Empire. As long as the Dalu Empire surrenders the White Tiger Duke, Huo, the Sun Moon Empire will allow the Dalu Empire to surrender. If the Dalu Empire dares to show any form of resistance, we will massacre every single person within the city. The orders were projected by a sound amplifying soul tool in the direction of Dalu City. Very quickly, the entire city learned what the Sun Moon Empire had proposed. Shu Jiawei, who was standing above the city walls, lowered his head and remained silent. He clenched his fists before speaking softly. Brother Dai, I will definitely accompany you when I join you in hell. At this very instant, there were no longer any other options. He knew that even he would not be able to stop Huo from saving the millions of lives within Dalu City. This was a fact of life that everyone understood. A heavy silence fell upon the people above Dalu City's walls. All the commanders suddenly dropped to their knees. Very soon, the soldiers and then the civilians followed suit. Everyone from above the city walls and within the city were all kneeling at that instant. The White Tiger Duke slowly turned around as he revealed a faint smile on his rugged face. He exclaimed with his deep voice, I, Huo, have spent my life on the battlefield fighting loyally for our empire. Today, there's no reason why I wouldn't give my life for the millions of lives of our Dalu Empire. Take care, everyone. I, Huo, shall take my leave. After finishing his sentence, he turned around and leapt into the air. At this instant, a figure suddenly pounced onto him and hugged him tightly around his waist. No, father. You can't go. The person who had pounced onto him was his personal guard, who was also none other than his youngest son, Douluo. Because of his bravery and a multitude of military achievements, Douluo had already become a commander. He commanded the personal guards who protected the White Tiger Duke. Right now, tears were already streaming down his face as he tried to keep his father from leaving. Huo sighed gently and stroked his head. My dumb son, there's no need for you to stop me. Let's not make our family look bad. Yahang, pull him away. Yahang immediately strode over as he dragged Douluo away from his father. Huobin had also come over to help Yahang control his brother. Let go of me. Let go of me. Do you all really want to see father die just like this? Douluo's eyes were now red as he tried his best to break free from his brothers. However, his cultivation was not as high as that of his brothers. No matter how hard he struggled, Douluo simply could not free himself. Yahang suddenly slapped Douluo. His eyes were also equally red. Dumbass, do you think I want father to die? Huobin, take care of him. Both of you will have to make sure our Dai family doesn't die out. We must never forget what the Sun Moon Empire has done to us. Following which, he suddenly turned around to face Huo and said, Father, I am the eldest son in our family. Please allow me to join you to demonstrate the loyalty we have for our empire. As he spoke, he suddenly moved his palms and planted them on Huobin's and Douluo's necks. Because of this, both his brothers fell unconscious and collapsed to the ground. Following which, Yahang turned around and bowed to Elder Sun. Without saying anything, he strode towards Huo. His bow was simply a gesture to thank Elder Sun in advance for taking care of his family, since he would not be returning to Dalu City with his father. Huo stared at his son and spoke, You are truly a man from our Dai family. You are a good child. Following which, he raised his hand and brought Yahang into his embrace. It was clear that he was very proud of his son. However, his hand suddenly moved towards Yahang's neck. Similarly, Yahang froze before he fell unconscious. He would never have expected his father to use the same method on him. Huo turned around to face Elder Sun and pleaded, Elder Sun, I will need you to take care of my sons for me. Elder Sun sighed and replied, White Tiger Duke, you can rest assured that as long as Shrek City is still around, I will not let anyone hurt them. All right. After hearing Elder Sun's promise, the White Tiger Duke seemed to have no more worries. He leapt upwards and released a deafening howl. The White Tiger Duke is here. Come and take my life if you dare. Ha ha ha. He suddenly ripped apart the armor and shirt he was wearing to reveal his muscular physique. His body seemed to possess a perfect balance between strength and aesthetics. His powerful aura infected all of Dalu City. The commanders who were already kneeling on the ground could not help but lower their heads and bawl. No one wanted to see how the war god of their generation was about to fall. In the meantime, Shu Jiawei appeared to be a lot calmer. He stuck his hand into his sleeve and withdrew a short dagger. He had long thought of committing suicide after failing to protect his people as the emperor of the Dalu Empire. Now that Huo had chosen to give up his life for the empire, Shu Jiawei thought of doing the same too. Even though they could not be born on the same day, Shu Jiawei wanted to die on the same day as his brother in arms. The moment the White Tiger died for the empire would be the same moment when he would die for his empire. The sky above was dark and cold. The clouds were like a huge slab of stone on everyone's minds. Everyone, including the powerful soul masters from Shrek Academy and the Tang Sect, had their fists clenched tightly. Everyone present knew that there was no other option. However, no one was happy to give up just like this. They could only stare and watch as the White Tiger Duke went forward to give up his life. It was a shameful moment for everyone. Everyone would owe the White Tiger Duke a favor they would never be able to return. Even though the White Tiger Duke was flying against the wind, his muscular body, straight back, and the proud look in his eyes made him look formidable. At this instant, he looked like a leader among mankind descending from the sky. He did not resemble someone who had just failed to defend his city. Under the protection of the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineer Legion, Juzi slowly flew forward. She was very excited as her body started to tremble in anticipation. Kong Deming, who was standing by her side, was also equally excited by how close they were to success. After all, it had always been his dream to see his empire unite the entire continent. However, the main reason why he was willing to help Juzi was because she was a lot easier to control than Shu Tianran. In addition, he no longer cared about power and status now that he had become a Class 10 Soul Engineer. Instead, he wanted to see the Sun Moon Empire conquer the entire continent so that he could spread the soul tools he had developed to the whole continent. He knew that Juzi would definitely support his aspirations. Because both parties weren't too far apart, it didn't take long before Huo arrived before the Sun Moon Empire army. A beam of silver light was projected forward as it enveloped the White Tiger Duke. Huo did not try to resist it as he allowed the silver light to restrict his movements. The white light pulled Huo towards Juzi. It was the first time he was seeing the War God Empress at such close proximity. He was shocked to see how he had been defeated by such a young lady. You are the War God Empress of the Sun Moon Empire? Huo asked coldly. Juzi nodded and said, That's right. Are you Huo, the White Tiger Duke? There would be no other Huo in this world. Huo replied coldly. Juzi took in a deep breath and asked, Do you still remember how you brought your troops to attack the cities near the border of the Sun Moon Empire? Do you remember how you killed our people? Huo spoke plainly. I have spent my entire life on the battlefield and have killed countless enemies. How am I supposed to remember who I have killed? There are always bound to be casualties on the battlefield. Tears started to stream down Juzi's face as she said, However, you were the person who killed my father back then. My father was but a civilian, a chef. Our family used to lead a happy life. I loved to eat my father's food. However, he never returned after that fateful day. My mother cried herself to death not long after my father died, and I became an orphan. The White Tiger Duke froze, then asked, So you have come all the way here to exact revenge on me? Juzi nodded and replied hatefully, That's right. I have buried this hatred for you in my heart for 20 years. 20 long years. During these 20 years, I have wanted to skin you alive to avenge my parents. It is because of this hatred that I have managed to put up with everything in my life until now. It would be too easy for you if I were to kill you directly. I want to destroy everything that is a source of your pride. Didn't you take pride in being called the War God? Then, let me destroy your army and conquer your empire. Today, you shall lose everything you owned. I want to use your blood and soul to bless my parents' spirits. After hearing Juzi's angry words, the White Tiger Duke broke out into a burst of unexpected laughter. There are always bound to be casualties in war. Even though I don't quite remember what happened back then, isn't it very hypocritical of you to blame me for what I have done when the Sun Moon Empire had been doing exactly the same for the past few years? You are but one of the millions of people who want to kill me. In the future, you can similarly expect millions of people who want to seek revenge on you. Go ahead and take your revenge. What are you waiting for? My head is right in front of you. Take it as you wish. Even though the White White Tiger Duke was their enemy, the commanders of the Sun Moon Empire could not help but marvel at the spirit and courage he was exhibiting. He was truly a commander worthy of respect. Even under such circumstances, the pride and confidence in him was not battered by Juzi's threats. Juzi became very uncomfortable after seeing and hearing his reaction. She suddenly felt that she had not managed to defeat the White Tiger Duke. Compared to what she had expected, he did not seem to be in any pain. Juzi threatened him. White Tiger Duke, do you believe that I will give orders to slaughter everyone within Douluo City right now? How dare you? The White Tiger Duke was visibly enraged by her words. Are you not afraid that karma will strike back at you? Juzi stared coldly at him and said, I have spent my whole life with a single aim, to exact revenge on you. Why would I be afraid of karma? It is beyond my consideration. Marshal, I urge you to think twice before doing that. Elder Kong whispered to her. Juzi gazed into the distance in the direction of Douluo City. If there were no one from Shrek Academy or the Tang Sect in Douluo City, she might really have gone on to slaughter everyone in there. However, that was not the case. She could only try and scare the White Tiger Duke. Juzi unsheathed the long sword by her side as she pointed it at the White Tiger Duke. Dai Hao, I shall dig out your heart and bless my parents with your blood today. Bring it on. Dai Hao exclaimed angrily. Juzi glared coldly at Dai Hao. Even though she did not dare to kill everyone within the city, she must exact her revenge on Dai Hao. This was the bare minimum she had to do to avenge her parents. She had decided to disappoint Huo Yuhao by breaking the promise they had made, and was willing to accept the consequences for that. She pointed her sword at the White Tiger Duke's chest. She started to move the tip of the sword closer to his chest as the blade of the sword released a powerful sword light. She wanted to see the White Tiger Duke crumble under the pressure of impending death. However, she was destined to be disappointed. The White Tiger Duke's eyes were full of arrogance and determination. There was not a single bit of cowardice or fear. Screw it. I should just kill him and end this once and for all. Suddenly, an intense murderous intent formed in Juzi's eyes as she retracted her sword and prepared herself to make the final stab to end this hatred in her heart. Suddenly, a deafening roar echoed across the sky. It was as loud as the thunder one would hear in an incredibly large thunderstorm. I dare you to do that. Those simple 6 words were enough to cause the entire area to tremble. The powerful sound wave was infused with an overwhelming amount of spiritual power as it echoed across a 50-kilometer radius. Normal soldiers would only hear an unbelievably loud voice. However, soul masters and soul engineers felt the impact of the voice. It was almost as though their heads had been hit by a hammer. The more powerful their cultivation was, the greater the impact on them. Juzi felt dizzy after hearing the voice and was unable to stab the White Tiger Duke. The dark and gloomy sky suddenly lit up as a radiant golden sun started to illuminate the land beneath it. Its intense glow was cast across the entire sky as it caused ripples in the air whenever it flickered. Even Elder Kong was startled by the overwhelming spiritual suppression released by the sun. He gasped, an ultimate Douluo. Who is this powerful ultimate Douluo? It was the first time he had seen someone use their voice to spiritually suppress everyone within a 50-kilometer radius. In fact, this was unprecedented in the history of soul masters. But now, it was happening right before his eyes. Even though Elder Kong could hear the rage in the person's voice, it was a bright voice. It was definitely not Elder Sun's voice. Elder Sun is not the only ultimate Douluo. It was important to note that Kong Deming was only able to fend off Elder Sun's attacks with his class 10 soul engineer powers. It was almost impossible for them to conclude who was more powerful. The Sun Moon Empire had only gained the upper hand because of their soul tools. Because of them, their individual fighting power was enhanced, while their enemy's compatibility was reduced. If Douluo City was to gain the help of another ultimate Douluo, it would be a very difficult victory for the Sun Moon Empire. They would have to sustain a heavy cost to take down Douluo City. How could Elder Kong not be worried about the appearance of this mysterious ultimate Douluo? In addition, as a class 10 soul engineer, he was able to tell that this newcomer was probably more powerful than Elder Sun. He or she was not just an ordinary ultimate Douluo. Even Elder Kong was not confident of defeating this person. However, there was one person who was even more shocked than Elder Kong. The person was none other than the War God Empress who was standing behind him. After hearing the loud exclamation from the sky, Juzi might have been momentarily overwhelmed by a dizzying sensation. However, after she composed herself, her body started to tremble uncontrollably. She was not trembling in excitement this time around. On the contrary, she was trembling with fear. That was right. She was trembling with fear. The reason was that she knew whose voice that was. That was precisely why she was so scared of his sudden appearance. He was the person whom she really did not want to see at this very instant. Even though the golden sun was irradiating the land with its brilliant, intense glow, the air started to become incredibly cold. Snowflakes started to fall from the sky as they enveloped the entire battlefield. It was important to note that it was only the start of autumn at Douluo City. However, the ambient temperature was plunging at an insane speed. In fact, it was so cold that the snowflakes were just drifting about in the sky. For some strange reason, they could not land on the ground. A silver light flickered from the distant sky. During its first flicker, it appeared to be at the furthest end of the sky. However, when it flickered again, it was already right before Juzi and Kong Deming. 2 figures appeared in the air right before the Sun Moon Empire's army. Is that him? Is it really him? Juzi almost stumbled as her mind turned completely blank. Kong Deming immediately raised his hand and dragged the White Tiger Duke towards him. He used his soul tool to control and suppress him. At this instant, it was apparent that the people who had exclaimed earlier were a man and a woman. The man was wearing a long pale blue robe. His long hair was swaying in the wind behind his back. While he was undeniably handsome, he had an aura which seemed to give off the impression that he was no longer affected by worldly concerns. Snowflakes spiraled around his body in a continuous fashion. Whenever the snowflakes were about to disappear, they would give off a faint silver glow which was almost indiscernible to the eye. The female who was standing by his side was even more radiant. Her long violet hair draped from her head to her toes. Her breathtaking looks were definitely more than enough to bring shame to the moon. Her violet eyes were absolutely mesmerizing. A gentle and warm golden glow flickered around her body, and there was a faint dragon roar every time the golden light flickered. Audible gasps could already be heard around Juzi. Is that Huo Yuhao? The spirit ice Douluo who challenged 10 of our people. The person who was standing beside him must be the dragon butterfly Douluo, Tang Clan. Yes, the pair who had suddenly appeared on the battlefield was Huo Yuhao and Tang Clan. After cultivating for 3 long years, they had finally completed their closed-door cultivation. Those 3 years went by very quickly for them because both of them were in a deep meditative state. Huo Yuhao had finally completed his absorption of the evil eye tyrant's spiritual power. He was able to use his powerful spiritual power, which was already beyond that of an ultimate Douluo, and at borderline demigod level, to complete his third soul core and fuse all of the soul power in his body. At the same time, he was finally able to master his control of spatial power. His third soul core was a spatial soul core. Huo Yuhao was already done with his cultivation about half a year ago. However, Tang Clan had needed some help because she did not possess an equally powerful spiritual power. She was stuck at a bottleneck and needed Huo Yuhao to use his soul power and spiritual power to guard her. She was only able to make her breakthrough and complete her third soul core a day ago. Hence, they were able to build on their achievements as the first people to possess yin-yang complement soul cores and form their third soul core. They had created another miracle in this world. Even though they were ultimately still ultimate Douluo, they were definitely the most powerful ultimate Douluo in the history of the Douluo continent. After completing their closed-door cultivation, Huo Yuhao had a deeper appreciation and sensitivity towards destiny. He immediately sensed that something was amiss. Hence, they flew to a neighboring city to understand what had happened while they were away. They were utterly shocked by what they had heard. They learned that Juzi did not keep the promise they had made previously, but had gone on to start another war and had already destroyed the Doling Empire. After hearing this news, Huo Yuhao could not help but fly into a rage. At this instant, he could sense his heart contracting as he felt an inexplicable sense of fear. Led by his sense of destiny, he ripped apart the space before him and tried to rush to Douluo City with Tang Clan. At that instant when Juzi was about to stab the White Tiger Duke, Huo Yuhao was actually about 250 kilometers away. However, he could sense the fear in his heart reaching an unprecedented peak. Hence, he used his voice to rip apart space to stop her, following which, within the blink of an eye, he was able to use his mastery of spatial power to transport himself and Tang Clan to where Juzi and Kong Deming were. Huo Yuhao was instantly overwhelmed by several emotions after seeing her and the White Tiger Duke, who was no longer wearing any armor or a shirt. Similarly, Juzi was also overwhelmed by a multitude of emotions. As they stared at one another, her eyes reddened. Why? Why must you return now? Why? Juzi raised the longsword in her hand and stabbed the White Tiger Duke without any warning. She knew if she didn't make her move now, she would probably not have a chance to avenge her parents again. This time, she used all her effort and soul power to attempt to kill the White Tiger Duke. As long as she was able to kill him, her revenge would be complete. Cling. A bright metallic sound could be heard. Even though the longsword had come into contact with skin, it was unable to penetrate into the person's body. Juzi's jaw dropped when she saw that the white tiger duke had been replaced by the person she had missed all this while. Swanwu displacement. This was one of Huo Yuao's favorite skills, and it now saved his father's life. He was able to use his powerful spiritual power and soul power to rip apart Kongdenning's Silvermoon divine barrier and complete his Swanwu displacement. The white tiger duke had been displaced to where Huo Yuhao was. After emitting that bright metallic sound, the longsword immediately disintegrated. Kongdenning was shocked as he tried his best to contract his Silvermoon divine barrier to contain Huo Yuhao. Scram! Huo Yuhao exclaimed furiously. At that instant, his entire body turned a brilliant red gold color. An intense golden light was released into his surroundings as a spiritual tempest formed around him. The Silvermoon divine barrier, which had managed to contain Elder Sun, was instantly shredded to pieces. The golden light released by Huo Yuhao immediately became silver, following which, the Silvermoon divine barrier returned to Kongdenning's side and tried to envelop him. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.